countdown is on to the most romantic day of the year, yes? 8 days to go until Valentine's Day. Do you know what we need? We need a love guru. Well, luckily enough, we've got one, yes. Please welcome Married at First Sight and Celebs Go Dating star, Paul C. Brunson. Good to see you. Good to see you. Right, Paul, look at this. This just, you know, the Queen used to say, and the joke was she always smelled fresh paint everywhere she went. Everywhere you go, it's love, hearts, and music. And
behind the cameramen, we're throwing each other roses back there. Right? I love it. It's love.
Well, you're here. You're the love doctor.
You are. Well, Paul, this is your new book, Keep Love.
Yes.
And now this is all about almost debunking a lot of kind of myths that we all have about love. And I think a lot of people have a lot of expectations of things which really sometimes are just not obtainable. No. And it's okay to feel that way.
It is. This is why I have this heart on, right? This is a tethered heart, but it's still connected, you know? Most relationships have low satisfaction, but we can do something about it. And I think we have to normalize these conversations.
100%. And you don't think normalising is just getting rid of them and trying to find somebody else?
I mean, sometimes it is. So there's a lot of trifling people out here. There's a lot of trifling people, but there's also a lot of people who just need help.
Yeah. But what I think you've done throughout the various ways in which you've been, spreading your message is that you've been making it a way that we can talk about it in a way that doesn't feel uncomfortable, so that we can just actually be open and have these conversations. And you're saving a lot of relationships by having these conversations.
Oh my gosh, I'm saving mine.
We have a lot of there's quite a few of us are women of a certain age here. Okay. And I do have to say that I have been vindicated by you.
Have you?
Looking at your book, because I have been saying on here that, it's absolutely fine to go to bed in an argument because when you wake up the next day, you're calmer, you're clearer. And a lot of people were like, no, never go to bed, and I don't agree with that. So thank you for agreeing on that. And the other thing that I'm into is we talk a lot on here about, being of a certain age and menopause and libido, and that, sometimes it feels like libido has become a thing, that you always need to fix everything to get your libido back. And I feel that libido is something that ebbs and flows.
Yes.
And that Marlene Klaus and I were saying about, intimacy and feeling passionate often comes from like somebody spending the day putting the shelves up for me.
Yes.
And I just wondered, from a male perspective, this whole thing around the actual act and how much of that act you were having in the week, how much importance from a male perspective
in terms of how much sex?
Do you... Let's just say, how much thing are we supposed to be getting?
I tell you what, this is what's so wild about this, is that many of us think that it's supposed to be happening every day, like we're having sex like rabbits, right? Actually, lions have more sex than rabbits, but that's a whole nother thing. But the average is 3 to 4 times per month. But many of us believe that it's more than that. And therefore, we walk into these relationships with a lot of pressure. Oh my gosh, we're not having sex as much as the average, so therefore something's wrong with me. The other part that I think is very important is that there's something that's called spontaneous desire. That's an 18-year-old. You know what I mean by that, right? They're ready all the time, 25 hours a day. They are ready. But then as we get older, both men and women, we move into, no longer are we ready at a drop of a hat.
No.
Well, how important is it to create the atmosphere of intimacy? Like, what are the other areas that people might not even realise that are intimacy apart from the physical act?
This is a great question, because ultimately, I mean, let me just make it very plain. The best sex in the world happens when you feel safe with your partner. In order to feel safe, you need to feel emotionally connected to them. So what we need to be doing is working on our emotional connection, and that's happening all day long with our partners.
Absolutely.
And when we do that, what we do is we end up building what's called responsive desire. And responsive desire is something that I want us to lean into.
So it's coming up to Valentine's Day. There's lots and lots of pressure on partners, isn't there, to keep the spark going. What would your advice be?
Can I say, I don't like Valentine's Day.
Oh, that's
Hooray!
No to Valentine's Day.
It's all excuse to not do anything all the other days.
Exactly.
And you know what? This is a very interesting stat that is going to now, I think, upset a lot of people. But Valentine's Day is one of the most popular days to what? Get engaged. Behind Christmas and New Year's.
Right.
But guess what? Those who get engaged on Valentine's Day have a much higher likelihood of separation.
Is that because the fantasy romance? It's all about the fantasy. I've been reading your book.
I see the pages. All these notes in here. I said.
So it is the show aspect of it as opposed to really maybe what it's meaning.
Yes, it's about the urgency. What Valentine's does is it forces us to do things that maybe we don't want to do, right? Instead, I say date or be in a relationship intentionally. Intentionally, not off of urgency.
Well, how do we, I need to ask you, because I've got quite a few friends that are over 40 who are single, and what they said to me to ask you is, you know, women who are leading their life and successful, got quite a bright personality.
Right.
How,
They like red. They like red.
you know, sometimes they like braids. But how do women, seriously, women these of today, and a lot of the conversation I have with my girls is that they're struggling to find men of a suitable standard, or whether they're true, or whether they're overlooking, you know, because everyone wants their 6 foot tall and and has to earn a certain amount of money. But how do you put yourself out there and actually open your eyes a bit more and not shut yourself off just to your particular type?
Yeah, this is so important because there are 8 billion people in this world. Okay? And what we have to understand is that we now expect more from our partners than ever before. We want them to be great in bed. We want them to be co-founder of our company. We want them to be a great co-parent. We want them to be a best friend. Like, we want all these things. Our grandparents didn't want all of that. They didn't.
True.
They wanted a friend sometimes, sex sometimes, but other times don't even talk to me, right? You know what you know. So the whole idea now is we expect more. So I do think that we need to think about if we are expecting more, maybe it's going to take longer. Maybe it means that we need to prioritize other things like their well-being. I think that's the most important thing you can ask for from a partner, is do they focus on their well-being? If they do, everything else can be worked out.
Okay.
Great.
Well, this always happens. We could literally just
All day.
ask another,
I mean, because there was another question I wanted to ask.
For your friend.
For her friend, her friend's very nosy, likes the question. Paul, there's much more questions answered in the new book. It is out today, everybody. It's called Keep Love, and we love Paul. Paul is...
Thank you.